Peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. This is yours truly, General Pow Shadowz of the House of Hip Step. But I'm also known as Author P.E. McCallum, author of the book, this book, NGR. What does it mean? An expose on the N-word from a hip-hop perspective. I'm back with another good and informative video today. And, this platform, the NGR Exposed platform, not only do we promote my book, but we also promote and advocate for a better society, a more understanding society when it comes to the issues of race and race relations. We need better race relations in this country. And I don't know, I hope in some small way this platform can be in addition to the struggle, in having better race relations and getting along better as different ethnic groups and nationalities within the country. But today, of course, we'll deal with some of the content of my book, but I wanted to just talk to y'all today, have an intelligent, informed conversation about why race isn't getting any better, why race relations aren't getting any better in the country. And this is something that is dear to me, a topic that's dear to me. It's a sincere observation that I've been making. And the race relations in the country are not getting any better. The reason is primarily because we as a country are afraid to talk about race. We are afraid to have a healthy conversations, with the opposite, or with the, I don't want to say opposite, because actually that's what they do, is they put us against each other, as particularly black and white people. They say, black is the opposite of white. And, when you think about like playing chess, you have the black pieces on one side, the white pieces on the other side, and they're opposing forces. So I think that the white system of white supremacy that's in place tries to stimulate division, and encourage division. And, we don't want to fall into that. But when it's difficult, having these conversations, because I don't think people know how to begin to have these conversations about race. Like, people have questions, but until we as a society are able to learn how to have these uncomfortable conversations, until we learn how to have these difficult discussions about race, then race relations won't get any better. I think we're at a equilibrium with that. We are at a standstill where it's kind of like it's stuck at a certain level. Race relations in the country are stuck at a certain level, and they haven't necessarily improved. They haven't necessarily gotten worse, but they haven't improved either. And they won't improve because of the fear, the overall fear that we have in this country of honesty, of having these healthy conversations around race. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? I think that a lot of the times we want to so bad try to get along with each other, and we want to fix the problem. We don't want to be divided like this, but people don't know what to do about it. The average person doesn't know what to do. But I'm telling you, what we have to begin to do is have conversations like this. I want people of European descent to come to the platform and to build with us on this platform. Of course I want my people, black and indigenous people, to come on here and build. but I want other nationalities, Latinos, Asians chime in, you know. Check out the information and please comment and, let me know if you want to come on and have a conversation. I encourage that. I want us to have conversations. That's what this platform is about. And we'll get into that. We'll grow into that. But right now I'm just laying down the information and asking the questions and creating the forum, for the discussion. A lot of times I think Black and Indigenous people don't know what goes on in the minds of white people of European descent. We don't know, Black and Indigenous people don't know what kind of conversations you're having in your households. I think a lot of times people wonder if they're having racist conversations in these households. Are people really racist behind closed doors? And if you're not racist, right? If you're a person of European descent and you're not racist, it's time for you to speak out and let your voice be known. You have to be vocal, in your opposition to the system of racism, systemic racism, and to white supremacy that does exist, For instance, it was great for race relations when the George Floyd situation happened and we saw the Black Lives Matter movement springing up all over the country. And there were plenty of people of European descent participating in these protests and showing their support to the Black and Indigenous community, showing their solidarity. That was good race relations. And it showed us that there's a lot of so-called white people who support our struggle as Black and Indigenous people against the racism. They came out in droves to support the Black Lives Matter movement. It's really up to white folk, right? Quote unquote white folk. And we don't really like these terms black and white because we view them as divisive on this platform. And I've made several videos exactly about why we view them as divisive. But it's really up to so-called white people of European descent, to educate their own people. Because when you see another ignorant white person around you, you have to intervene and interject in that person's life and say, hey, those ideologies you're expressing are outdated. That way of thinking is wrong. It's outdated. And it never was right to begin with, to discriminate people based on color. It never was right. It takes other white people to say this to other white folk. That's going to be most effective. When you see these white supremacist rallies and things like that popping up, like we had here in Tennessee, like we need to see white resistance to that, because that's going to be the most effective. They expect Black and Indigenous people to be in opposition, but when they see other white folk in opposition, it hits different. And it sends a stronger message. So, a question was asked, what can white people do to help fight against racism and white supremacy? And famously, it was said that the response was by this Black leader, I think it was Malcolm X, was asked that at a time by a white college student. And I think his response was nothing at that time. And I think he ended up shifting his mentality and finding and naming some ways that white people can participate and help Black people in the struggle against racism and white supremacy. But, at that time, I think that was his response. I want to say he changed his stance on that. But the answer is not nothing. The answer is what white folks can do to help in the fight against white supremacy and racism is become vocal and speak out, and educate your other members of your race, and shut down the racism when they speak it. Your apathy becomes support. So if racism is going on around you and you're apathetic and you're quiet about it, in a way, that's a show of support, And if you are against racism, which I know personally, a lot of white people personally that I know that are against racism. They're against systemic racism and white supremacy that exists. They don't approve of it at all. And I encourage them. You got to be vocal. You got to speak out against it. It's up to you. When these rallies come up, y'all got to show up at these rallies. And y'all got to, protest these rallies and let them know, hey, this isn't right. We don't support this. This is ignorant. So if we look at my book, right? So I wrote a book, a beautiful book on the N-word, NGR, what does it mean? An expose on the N-word from a hip-hop perspective. And, of course, there's historical information in here, origins on the etymology of the word, and some of my other videos break that down. But I have also some interesting conversations in here. And this is a conversation I had with a white female. And I was asking her about the N-word and her experience with the N-word. And I have multiple conversations in the book. So let's check this one out. So on page 17, conversation with L. We'll call her L. I didn't want to put anybody's name on blast, so I didn't use her full name. So, L. This is L talking. Starts out with her. My grandmama, my birth mom's mom, uses the term the N-word very condescendingly and in an appropriate demeanor. Period, point blank. My nephew was mixed and she had some terrible, horrible things to say to and about him. Then me. So, did you start hearing the N-word when you moved to Tennessee? L. Yes. Since I was adopted, I wasn't brought up with my birth family at all. I spent holidays and summers with them and all. But the more I've gotten to know my birth family, they use it a lot. My parents were in their 50s, and if anybody were going to talk that kind of hate speech, you would think it would be the older generations, but they taught me how to love. My birth family is the ones who have always put some kind of negative spin on anything that's not white. And I think it's BS. It's horrible. It's just horrible the way they talk about the N-word. Like, all the economy is just these N-words fault and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, do you know everybody's story? They struggle just as hard, if not harder than most of us. Me. Those are some progressive views, and I salute you on that. So when you hear your grandma use the N-word, how does that make you feel? L. When I hear that, I'm disappointed and I'm disgraced. It's a filthy thing. It's like calling somebody ugly. It's a condescending thing. They can't help what they are, who they are. Why hate somebody based on their skin color, whether it's opinions or whatever? People are raised to think certain things, Me. Have you always felt like this? L. I've always felt like this. I've always had a love for everyone. Me. So from the earliest time you can remember, you've never had any racist ideas toward a black person because they were different from you. L. No animosity. The first black friend I ever had, I asked her how she got her skin to be so dark, and she said, my mom and dad gave it to me. Of course, when you're kids, the things you come up with are amazing. I was always taught love by my adoptive parents. Love is where I've always been. Me. Thank you so much for sharing that, and I'm glad to hear that you have that perspective, because in the black community, we don't really know what you all, meaning white Americans, are thinking. We don't know how you were raised or how you came up, and because of that lack of knowledge, sometimes we might think that all white people are a certain way. And that's taken from page 17 in my book, NGR, What Does It Mean? Expose on the N-word. It's available on Amazon and paperback, audiobook, and Kindle. But it's true what I said. You know, we don't a lot of the times know what's on a white person's mind. So sometimes we think that, you know, we could think that all white people have a little racism in them. We don't know what conversations, you know, black and indigenous people, we don't know the conversations you're having. Why? Because we don't have these conversations. We don't know how you guys talk when you're not around us. How you talk, how you communicate. But I appreciate Elle, my friend Elle, who I interviewed right there. Is a white female. And I appreciate her for sharing those views with me. You know, her grandmama was racist. Her adoptive parents, she was adopted. They were white, and they taught her love. They taught her not to be racist. But, you know, her adoptive, but her grandparents in the South, when she came to live with them, they used the N-word a lot, and, you know, would do things like blame the economy on the N-words and, you know, the typical white supremacy jargon and talk. And it does exist. But just like Elle, you know, Elle never was racist. You know, she was a white female, and according to her, she never held any racist views at all in her mind. She just wasn't like that, even though some of the people in her family, the older generations, grandparents, etc., were like that. She wasn't raised like that. And she wasn't like that, even though they were trying to probably influence her and raise her to be that way. So I think that racism is definitely something that's taught. And I think it's something that is passed down to another generation, from one generation to the next. And the same way that racism and hate speech is passed down, love and unity among the people is also passed down. So I think the same way that the white supremacists pass down the racism, the same way that they give that to the children, those of you, meaning white people and people of European descent and other nationalities and races who aren't racist, we have to pass down the information to the children that we want them to have, which is a message of love. I think that's the point, is that we have to pass that message down to the children in order to correct it, because we do have people out here who are influencing them to be racist. And that still happens today. And the only way that we're going to fix this problem, or begin to fix it, is to have these open, honest conversations. Call out racism when we see it. We have to call it out. Can't be apathetic. Can't be quiet about it. That's not working. So, again, man, I encourage y'all to get a copy of my book. It's available on Amazon. Looks like this. NGR, what does it mean? An expose on the N-word from a hip-hop perspective. And I'm General Pow of the House of Hip Step, a progressive music organization. And we want to see peace, love, unity, and good vibes for everybody. And we want to see the end of racism and the end of the system of white supremacy and systemic racism. So, just like you do, please get in the comments. Let me know how you feel. Let me know if there's any questions you have, anything you'd like to talk about, and we'll come on and talk about it. Or let me know if you want to come on the platform and share your story of racism and, you know, how you want to heal from it, help in the struggle to heal from the effects of racism and white supremacy. Let me know, all right? But do me a favor, right? And spread love, not hate. You know, can we do that? That's one way we can start. And spread love, not hate, all right? Because we have enough haters in the world, don't we? Yeah, we do. Salute y'all.